Good afternoon, North America, and hello and good evening to Europe. That's right, I got it there. And joining me on this set is going to be the one and only Gormizer today. As you can see, the set has changed a little bit for the time being, so we're making sure we're all nice and cozy and good to go. I'm Hindu Man, and we're going to be bringing you Smite Challenger Circuit Europe Edition. Gore, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing pretty good. Again, we were talking about it coming in today, but this kind of feels surreal because it's like a jump back in time for both of us. Where, I mean, we've been casting at our computers in the past, specifically for Challenger Circuit on a Saturday. Like, I feel like it's 2015, 2016 again for me, so it's kind of weird.
Yep, a real throwback. The other cast is going to have a lot of fun with us today, but at least me and Gore have been through this before. I'm excited to bring you some action today. If you don't know what's going on in terms of the Smite Challenger Circuit, what we have is multiple teams, 6 teams to be in fact, that are going to play over the course of 6 weeks, and the top teams will rise, and they'll also get a chance at a shot of winning some more prize money as well. The SCC is going to be a roll-in tournament that you're going to see multiple different teams throughout the year, and we're going to start today off with Freshly Forged up against Snake Pit here, Gore. These two teams, different ends of the spectrum to an extent in terms of how they qualified.
Yeah, it was actually really weird. If you were watching most of the qualifications, especially going into group stages, Freshly Forged is the team that's got Deathwalker, Faeles, PrettyPriMe, Joshy, and when you hear those 5 names, you're like, oh, okay, so they qualified week 1, got first place. No, they took 3 weeks to get to the group stage. Then they were able to fight their way through it and confirm themselves for the Challenger Circuit, but the fact that it took them so long was kind of the top of conversation. Was what do we expect out of them, especially now, because it's kind of limited the pool. This is only the teams that have kind of risen to the top of the top, so we'll have to see how they've adapted to kind of deal and handle with this.
Completely agree, and obviously with everything going on today, this is going to be a best of 3 between these two. We've got 2 other sets to bring you after this one. We can get into picks and bans though shortly and see how this one's going to play out between these two in game number 1. Look at that. So the Snake Pit going to be your first pick, first ban, and Freshly Forged in response. Now the Snake Pit team, we've got a couple of members you should recognize here, going, Spudio, Dazer from Days Gone Past as a coach.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. Dazer, I was looking it up just to see where he had, like, maybe the last time I had seen him play, and I can't actually tell you the last time I ever saw him play. As a coach, he's been in the scene forever, but it's just coming in now, playing as the support here for Snake Pit. It'll be interesting to see how he kind of adapts to that role. But Spudio has been doing it for a long time, has played with and in place of PrettyPriMe in the past, so there's a lot of talent on both of these sides, which is why it's one of those things, you hear a lot of the names from Freshly Forged, but they have to have that star of it took them a few weeks to get here, and you have to look at Snake Pit as this kind of, maybe not monster team that you see out of Freshly Forged, but as a heavy contender.
Well, Freshly Forged here, by the way, Kukulkan, obviously your Moja and Persephone, 3 top picks at the moment. Odin Kamizots from, the Snake Pit, interesting to see those. They are definitely on the higher side of picks. Athena's one that's starting to rise to fame, though, by the looks of it.
And that's just funny to me, because Athena is like, if depending on which time of the year it happens to be, you could flip a coin. Heads, she's meta; tails, she's not. And that feels like it's been the way in Smite since there was competitive esports. Like, she just always comes through. She's really good. The taunt obviously makes her really strong, but it's the fact that she can be played, specifically in Europe, a lot of players like to flex her into the jungle as well, that I think keeps her like bouncing back and forth between meta and not.
Well, with that, Jingwei picked up Merlin, Heimdall in response. More than likely Merlin for the mid lane here. Merlin's still very, very potent in that mid lane. Took a couple of nerfs consistently, but we're still seeing a lot of play out there.
Yeah, that's, I think, the biggest thing. He has a lot of control. He is one of the best appliers of Divine Ruin, which right now a lot of players have been picking up just because it combats certain things. Terra's been a very popular support, so it helps deal with that. Lifesteal is a pretty big item on a lot of these gods lately, so anything that can kind of help him go forward. Plus, I mean, would take it at base value. Turn and burn. He just melts people once he hits a certain point in the game, as well as objectives. The only thing he's really missing is that big secure.
So more Discordia picked up this week. Snake Pit going to lock that in for mid lane. Been a lot of talk, at least from some of the casters, in terms of they think it's a little bit overvalued. It's not as useful in that mid lane. But I'm interested to see how this works out alongside the score here. Pretty good CC composition, at least, with Thor and Discordia on the side.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of lockdown in mid, so Merlin's going to need that blink early, and he's going to probably use it often as well. With that, the ganks that will be coming down in that lane, it's going to be a dangerous game. Again, he does a lot of damage in return, but Discordia can just pop him dead.
Khepri now picked up for Forge as well. Got okay push power in the early game. It's not the worst, it's not the best, but with a Heimdall alongside him in that dual lane should be pretty solid. And obviously with Thor now, picked up in the jungle, it's unlikely we're going to see an execute here. We'll see how Khepri does here today.
Yeah, as long as they don't go something, I mean, Achilles still kind of on the table and maybe question marks as to where he could go. He can flex over into that solo lane, but I mean, a lot of people have been picking him up for the jungle lately, so that's an option, but it would almost not exclusively be to counter Khepri, but it would feel like that pick, like it's there for the counter. So if Freshly Forged can maybe abuse that knowledge and go something like a King Arthur to control that lane a little bit better, it might hurt that and hinder Snake Pit even further.
Interesting as well to see that Vamana banned away in the counterban phase. I expect to see Vamana be in the top, 3 picks for either side here, but he has fallen down there, being banned away, so King Arthur now can go Freshly Forged. And there's that Achilles you were talking about there. Gore picked up, and it's a pretty good counter to this Khepri.
Yeah, we've seen what it can do. It has actually a lot of fun late game fights that have happened where Achilles will get 2 or 3 executes, one through that Khepri ult, but he's got to be right place. He's got to have that cooldown available. And in this case, he's got to be able to keep up because this King Arthur is going to bully him.
Ares and Khepri picked up. Looks like an Ares jungle to me. I've not seen one of these in a second or two.
Yeah, this is definitely Europe, and this definitely feels like Challengers there. Like that is the only lock that, again, if I'm in a time capsule right now, it's 2016, and this is something that I maybe should have expected.
Well, I'm not going to lie, this bathrobe's getting pretty hot right about now. This may come off later on. Let's get into game 1 between Snake Pit and Freshly Forged and see how this one plays out between the two. We're going to start off then and just double check to see that it's Faeles in the jungle playing this Ares this game. And we'll see how he does. Did start off with the consumable Hand of the Gods as well. And look at all those beads. You can see Doug just hovering over there.
I mean, if you're going to lock in Ares and in your loading screen into game, you see that it's Faeles on it, everyone on your team should have beads. Achilles is the only one that can get away without it just because of the fact that he's not going to be maybe in these big group fights in mid that you're particularly going to see Faeles try to pick apart on. But I mean, he does a lot of decent damage, and it's going to be interesting to see how it transitions into the late game.
Look at this, though. Solo lane, Terrorem just going to rotate to duo, help invade the purple at level 1, teleport back towards the solo lane, not miss any farm off the back of that, still be there for blue buff. And all the while, though, the problem is that the rest of Snake Pit are trying to get back to duo lane, but the chase is on from Deathwalker, who did the same sort of thing here. He looked to steal away the purple, and now he might be able to get first blood as he continues to chase Spudio all the way to his back harpies. Only problem is, Gore, it's a Jingwei anyway, so, passive will come into play.
Yeah, being able to fly literally right back into lane. Doesn't even really need it right now. Has a health pot ticking, so he should be able to cap off right before getting in lane. They lose a lot of pressure, though. So even though they get that purple buff and they steal it away, they've essentially maybe donated a little bit more in the jungle over to Freshly Forged just because of how much they've lost over on this side in terms of minion wave, as well as the control they had.
And also a red buff invade coming out from Freshly Forged there as well. Pressure to the left-hand side again as Dazer is actually getting aggressive on Joshy, but a blinking from Callus into an abduct will force the beads out of Dazer early on there. Bit surprised by that. I didn't expect, a beads burn that early on. The level 1 abduct not so good, and now with an Ares rotating in, this could be doom and gloom. 1 chain, 2 chain, 3 chain, not even needed. The flames from Faeles will get first blood.
And that's just, textbook. With the way they played that aggression, that is perfect. The Deathwalker getting aggressive early on, forcing Spudio out, helps that wave go forward, as I had mentioned earlier. And then it's just free reign. They get to go into the jungle, they take purple, they take red, and then, well, hey, Faeles is already in the neighborhood. Might as well go for a gank. The chains are going to lock down Spudio. He had nowhere to go.
Well, both mid laners as well. Start off with the Lost Artifact this game, something we've seen a lot more out of mages as of late towards that mid lane. It just gives you so much regen and a nice bit of power, and it also allows you to just catapult your build a little bit better in the early game. Do you expect Chronos Penance for both these two in the mid here, Gore?
Yeah, honestly, I think a lot of damage is going to come down from them with the Chronos Pendant. I think it synergizes well with both of their kits. You might see, Angry might be able to hold it off, go for boots, grab a third item, and then go back and maybe grab a Charon's coin if he really wants to. But honestly, at this point, you see kind of what PrettyPriMe is doing. Get the artifact, then go immediately finish off your boots, go back, get that Chronos Pendant. Once your cooldowns are up, you're going to see the fights happen, I think, a lot more often around mid. So I really like the pace of the game that so far both mids are going for.
Callus getting a bit too far forward here, a bit concerned for him because there's a rotation coming from WorstTurttle. Those walls from Dazer, followed by a wall from Turtle, is going to just isolate him alone, and the bug will fall in the jungle pre-level 5.
That's a good return kill. It's not necessarily like 1-for-1 losing your Jingwei early. It's definitely given more credence over to Joshy on the Heimdall. You can see a little bit of a level advantage already for him, and still the lane pressure in his favor. But at least the only one you've lost if you're freshly forged is your support. And a lot of players, especially at this level, you don't want to lose anyone, but if you're going to sacrifice anyone, it's going to be Faeles, especially pre-level 5, because that save not even being available isn't going to be #1 on your list of people to prioritize in the team.
Dazer's a little bit far forward here, just clearing the way. I'm just keeping an eye on where we see this rotation coming from Faeles. Escape available. Does manage to pull Dazer in time. Dazer will end up falling down here unless these flames don't do just enough. Now an answer back from Freshly Forged then. As soon as Faeles dies, straight away we get a rotation out of Faeles.
Percent damage does well. Who would have guessed? I mean, Faeles is just in a good position. And again, it's not something you typically expect, right? Ares, once he's locked in, 9 times out of 10 is going to be over here in the long lane. The fact that Faeles is bringing him into the jungle, and he's got 2 kills on him, and he's just farming really well, and the rotation specifically to keep that duo lane ahead is giving Joshy a lot of power, which is actually something we were missing from him in the group stage. So I like that they're prioritizing him.
Talking about boots real quick as well, just keep an eye on the supports as well. We've seen a little bit more of these reinforced greaves, reinforced shoes coming into play from some of the supports. A bit surprised we've seen it on Capri though at the moment. There's not a ton of dot damage from Snake Pit. I would have been more surprised to maybe see that go to Dazer. But we're starting to see them like move away from that cooldown boots a little bit more this year.
I'm wondering if not necessarily how much it comes through, because cooldowns is always going to be helpful.
Yeah.
But having that CCR specifically against like a team with WorstTurttle, who has a lot of CC, Angry has a lot of CC, Dazer has a lot of CC, so like everyone on Snake Pit has something that can help lock you down. So being affected by that a little less will ideally keep Faeles in the fight just a little bit more.
Yeah.
And potentially set up some clutch saves.
It's a good point, because when I look at those boots, I just think more about the passive, you know? Even the fact that it stacks up, gives you more protections from dot damage or extra damage.
Helps a lot there too.
I don't really think about it in terms of like the crowd control reduction, but I think it's a good point. Root in from Dazer though, pops the ultimate too, keeps the aggression going on Faeles, but at the back Anhur was getting aggressive on a different target. Although Faeles still under pressure as WorstTurttle dunks in, but he can't find the stun of the ultimate. Now he's overextended, and that's it, but no escape for Faeles. Everybody pops beads, and that means that Snake Pit are going to be in a rough position with no beads for the next minute or so.
Yeah, Faeles is just going to be happy because he's going to go next time, and now that he has blinked, it's going to be even easier to get an ult like that off and pull those 3 exact numbers. I will say, bonus points to Snake Pit right now, getting aggressive, trying to find the fight, and putting it to Faeles.
And now Faeles is going to end up falling here, just trying to rotate around to spend this red buff. Did get the ultimate out from Faeles to delay some time and maybe pull Spudio out. Faeles still alive. Is the damage going to be good from Discordia? No, she can't confirm damage. It's a Discordia, and now that leaves Faeles to be able to blink over the wall to safety, and now Dazer could be in trouble in the jungle at the same time. Angry in mid, getting pressure, but gets help to Terrorem. Faeles will take out Dazer on the backside. Not the real person you want to get that kill, but it's a kill nonetheless. WorstTurttle still trying to get these basics on Faeles, who rotates back to his team. Wow, this is a cluster clown fiesta across the map. There's now WorstTurttle under pressure too. He could end up falling if he's not careful.
And they're chasing him. That's going to be just enough mana for that. And Faeles was out of that, except for the fact that Spudio is able to use that passive pretty much perfectly. If there was not a Jingwei, any other hunter, maybe except for an Apollo with an ult, he's going to be out of there and he's going to be safe. He goes maybe a little bit too deep, gets caught out. But honestly, even still, that feels really worthwhile for Freshly Forged. Snake Pit, I like the aggression, and I think I like the call, but the most they really get out of that is the kill on the Faeles and his blink, which arguably sets him behind a little bit, but they don't find as much, I think, aggression as they would have liked there.
Yeah, completely agree. I think Snake Pit had an advantage of that red buff is what they look to do and invade it knowing that the health bars were low, but they just stuck around too long. The fight took longer than planned. Speaking of fighting, once again, Faeles pressures a little bit, but all those icicles are going to do some damage in response to Dazer and WorstTurttle. No escape used by Faeles again, pulls in 2. Where's the follow-up though is the problem. Deathwalker arrives just in the nick of time to help get 1, as WorstTurtle does take out Faeles. Prime's in execute range, got to be careful of Terrorem, but he's got a bit of support there from his teammates. Fallback from everyone, both supports end up dying.
It's just a little bit of a push and pull from both. I think the biggest thing for Faeles is being able to keep those ults coming whenever beads are down and he knows they're down. The problem was there, even though he was able to pull 2, he pulled 2 with no real follow-up. His own percent damage was able to help with Dazer, but WorstTurtle's getting aggressive into the back, was able to help deal with Faeles. there was a lot of disjointed focus, I feel like, from Freshly Forged there. And maybe a little bit more concise damage could have done something to get rid of someone like Terrorem.
And Terrorem just forced to use the Ullr away from Faeles there on this right-hand side. You can see all the mid laner, jungler, and support at Snake Pit just got all their meters back up again. And if you're just tuning in, this is the Smite Challenger Circuit. It's basically the SML replacement this year, where we'll have 6 teams from EU compete in a group that will play regularly in terms of format and making sure we play best of 3s to work out who the best in the group is. And then also the same thing will be happening in North America, which we'll be broadcasting tomorrow for your viewing pleasure. In this one, though, still pretty close here, Gore. How do you feel about the teams when we get towards this mid-team fight stage? You know, we're starting to get towards the mid-game eventually.
Mid-game is going to shift the dynamic. Mainly, it depends on where we see Spudio and Joshy come in from, because if they start making rotations, or if one rotates without the other, I think Heimdall is going to be a little more impactful in terms of just straight damage and control that he's going to apply for Freshly Forged. But I'm looking at WorstTurttle, I'm looking like Terrorem. I think both of them get a little bit more powerful here as they get that like third item spike that should be coming through in the next few minutes. The same thing can be said for, on the other side, Merlin. So maybe at a wash, it kind of depends on if they can keep focusing down Collis. So far, his ult kind of come out of the wash.
Yeah, well, that was the plan for Faeles and Deathwalker to rotate in, and everybody on Snake Pit will get away for the time being. Callis' ultimate is consumed. He's going to come back down. They'll find a nice wall hammer, I should say, onto Faeles. That's up the executor. Faeles just avoids it. Terrorem still stabs him in the back of the head to get the kill. Now pressure on from Deathwalker, looking towards Angry. With a nice wall, gets pulled away for a second, but round the back comes Prime with the arcane damage. But Prime just steps too far forward, takes more than bargain for, and has to fall back. Meanwhile, Dazer will be a casualty of war as Deathwalker brings him down. Meanwhile, eaten to the stratosphere is Terrorem, but he's not enough to find the kill.
See, you're going to need better trades than that if you're Freshly Forged. Losing Faeles for Dazer is not going to be worthwhile. Dazer's 0-4 right now. The further behind he gets, the less worthwhile it is to try and kill him off. Even though it's nice to maybe burn that Terra. Again, in a lot of ways, once she pops her ult and maybe enables the rest of the team to get aggressive, you have Terrorem to kind of take Dazer's spot in the event that he goes down. Whereas Faeles, yes, as the game goes on, I kind of foresee him doing maybe a little less damage, because yes, percent damage is always going to be golden, but he's still going to be needing to build a little tanky to keep himself potent. And then you start to lose a little bit of pressure, because then Deathwalker's building hybrid, Faeles is building hybrid, and then Collis is building full-on tank. I feel like that puts a lot of pressure onto Prime and Joshy to just stand up and be bonkers damage that I'm not sure they'll be able to provide consistently if Faeles keeps getting caught out.
That's a good point. I mean, one thing you did mention there was Daisy. He's died the most here on this Snake Pit at the moment. When you actually look at the state of him, he's still level 7. He only just fell behind Callis now in terms of experience. So he's not too far off the mark, even though he's died 4 times. I think on the other side, though, Freshly Forged, you can see in the jungle, Faeles a little bit behind at WorstTurttle, which I think is a bit more important here. Dazer though in mid. Avoid the abduct after the dash. Was flashed down. Still pressure. Nice body block from Callis too. Arcane damage is causing some problems, but into the sky goes WorstTurttle. No real options for him. He can see there's 4 members in mid. Might have to come in and help out with stun. Woes for damage. Gets cancelled out. Forced to beads and hammer away. Meanwhile, Dazer does fall down.
And WorstTurttle being able to get out of there. Again, Dazer maybe being the sacrificial lamb right now for Snake Pit, but they're not getting as much out of it this time around. In fact, they might even lose this mid-tier 1. They want to pressure it out. Pyromancers come up. They see that Achilles is rotating over. There's a lot of targets on this right-hand side of the map that are open to him. And Faeles has that ult, recognizing at this point the WorstTurtle's beads are down. If he can pull Angries in a different way, if someone can CC him just enough to make him beads, then I'm looking at Faeles to be the next setup, and I'm starting to anticipate more fights here for Freshly Forged.
We'll keep an eye on the 2 hunters in this game. This Heimdall versus the Jingwei. Jingwei going for the Devourer's Gauntlets, which we've seen time and time before. We once upon a time did see a lot of Bloodforge, but we're starting to see more Devourer's Gauntlets potentially picked up here and there. Whereas Joshy, meanwhile, gone for the Transcendence option. So it's damage versus, well, sustain for the most part here.
That's going to be, well, the question of the day. Which one can outlive the other? Yeah. Normally we see damage come online. Like, sustain is solid to keep you potent for, well, I would argue, I guess 12 minutes until we start seeing anti-heal items come online, right? Because now Divine Ruin's going to be online. If you want, Brawler's Beat Stick would be an option for some of these guys if they want to go heavy-handed into it. But I don't think we're going to be seeing as much of that potentially from Snake Pit, although they already have the Divine Ruin here for Angry. So it's going to set him up. It's also a decent amount of power. I think it's important to circle back with where they've been going, just because of the fact that earlier we had mentioned the Chronos pendant.
Yeah.
And Angry's opted for that Charon's coin, which is, I mentioned it as an option. I will be honest, I didn't expect it to be the #1 go-to for him.
Yeah, the mobility factor will come into play once those stacks start to get online, but I'm a little bit worried about, like, look at the composition he's up against. No one's really building that much magical defense at the moment, so 20% of no magical defense out of base, it's not a whole ton. But maybe if the team does try to build it later on, it'll come into effect. Whereas the Divine Ruin that you purchased, I think that's one of the most core pen items for mages at this point. You know? I mean, it gives anti-heal, but not only that, it's got great amounts of flat pen on it.
And that's the biggest thing. A lot of people here, and we might actually see this out of Prime, it's either going to be Divine Ruin because the passive is going to help it out as well as that pin that it has, or you've seen some people go for a Spear of Desolation, right? Where it's just like, okay, cool, we can grab that, potentially make it work, but honestly, the shakeup, I think Divine Ruin just comes out as more worthwhile because of the fact that the passive enables your team so much more to stop any.
Terrorem was chasing Deathwalker through the jungle there, but he rotated back towards the right side. Callus, however, could be pinched because of this. Just uses Snake Pit, grouped up. Dazer's popping the ult. Terrorem still goes aggressive towards Callus. There's WorstTurttle. Duncan trying to collapse onto him too, and they execute with the kill. Deathwalker now left alone, get hit by the apple on top of that from Angry. That's 2 kills down the way of Snake Pit. These guys are playing great today.
And they're in a perfect position. They can keep getting aggressive. They look like they want to isolate PrettyPriMe, and WorstTurtle's going to be on that. I don't know if you can lock him down enough. It is still Merlin. He does still have a lot of turnaround damage, but that's opened up the call. With this positioning for a Gold Fury, you can get in, try to take it away. You've got, well, maybe not the best secure in the world with all of your ultimates coming down, but you've definitely got the numbers advantage, so there's not really a reason to not try and press this.
So 2 picks on the right hand side become a red buff, and now this Gold Fury attempt only Faeles really in the area to contest. And I don't think an Ares can do much about this. So Snake Pit accidentally a little bit more so approaching this 15-minute mark now, almost up to the 3,000 gold, and the experience is about the same.
And it's just enough of a lead. Like we always will mention, 1,000 gold is a healthy lead to start to build on, but it's a blink and you miss it. You can lose that instantly. Now that they've gone up about 3,000, that's when you can start to feel a substantial amount. It's going to be a decent amount ahead of Vision. They should be able to afford more wards. They should have like maybe a tier 1 item per member ahead of the other team. And it's slow but very potent effects. And now with that Gold Fury off the board, that does also enable Snake Pit to start looking more aggressively towards Pyromancer. Depending on the way some of these fights go, Fire Giant can even open up for them. They've got control of the board. It's just what they decide to do with it.
Well, Power Spike came for Faeles now. He already got the Jade Emperor's crown early. Remember, Ares does like his auras. They want a bit more bonus damage. Jade Emperors will reduce the amount of physical damage from one target, but now with the Mystical Mail online too, just make it a little bit tricky with those blinks these days, just to make sure you don't tag a minion by mistake yourself in combat. Mystical Mail, just extra damage all around you, and it's also magical. You just mix it up a little bit more so if you need that. However, Freshly Forged, you already have quite a few magical gods. There's a chain that does have to Dazer. Great hammer out from WorstTurttle to deny that though. Now Dazer getting hit by the Abduct. No further follow-up available. Apple came out from Angry there, hitting onto Callus, who's chipped down to about 70% health. Freshly Forged really do want to try and pressure on this Pyro. You can also see that Joshy's made the rotation for this. This is giving a bit more of an opportunity for Spudio on the left-hand side too.
Yeah, he's going to be able to push up a little into that tier 1. PrettyPriMe maybe the biggest one, and like that's vulnerable from Freshly Forged, but they don't want to fight. They're playing it very safe. That's going to be a good stun from WorstTurttle.
Oh, and Callus pinned against the wall, abducted into it. Will have his ultimate available to pop it himself. In jumps Spudio, but that dash is now putting him in a world of hurt. Faeles going to use the no escape to pull one man under the tower. Dazer, he ends up falling down. Terrorem late on this rotation to mid. He was over on the right hand side trying to proxy a little bit. Roll round the back though, look for the stun, won't find it. A lot of low health targets, around that execute. Still a couple more seconds before that's available for him. Sorry, it is available for him, I should say. Now the pressure is on as they rotate towards this tier 2 tower now in the mid lane. Without minions, it's going to take a little bit longer to continue this push.
They're going to need a little more pressure. And it's that question, you could even feel it from watching Terrorem of, do we go in? Like, do I execute? I've got it. Can we go in? Do we want to fight this? What do we have? And the entire team, this is something Snake Pit's been doing all game, and they've been doing it wonderfully, is very controlled. A lot of teams, especially in the Challenger circuit, we've seen get hyper aggressive in moments like that.
Yeah.
And they'll lose a full fight under the tier 2, and that will just completely revert this game back to even, if not maybe even put Freshly Forged ahead in that instance. So being able to keep control of the pace, being able to kind of hold yourself back from that has kept them, again, cultivating a very beautiful lead as of right now. And yeah, you might lose that Pyromancer, but hey, 4,000 gold, 7,700 experience, it's a pretty good takeaway.
Great position for Snakepit to be in then. And once again, 6 of these kills for Freshly Forged have been against Dazer, who's still equal level with Callus, which just tells you that they're doing a very good job of playing this advantage, even though he seems to be like a sacrificial lamb in these fights. And I think they're kind of okay with that by the looks of this.
Yeah, I mean, he's 0-6, and like you said, the exact same level, maybe 1 tier 3 behind, but who cares as long as he goes down.
I was going to say, could die in the mid lane there, but that chains the tails, just whiffed its target. And on the left-hand side, you can see that tier 1 tower is barely left standing. Fury's up in about a minute's time, and we'll see what happens here. Will be a primal Fury. Not the greatest one in the world, but getting one of those in the early game can have a knock-on effect towards the Fire Giant a little bit later on.
It's not going to give you the immediate effects that you get out of like a Gold Fury or an Oni Fury, but that's the one that I would say is like, it's a sleeper Fury, just because, yeah, you're going to get some gold out of it, you're going to get some XP from killing it, it's going to be nice, but realistically it is the enabling Pyromancer to just get melted. The fact that Fire Giant is now just going to get melted, and one's not going to make it such a drastic difference that everyone's going to fight over it, but you see 2 or 3 of these in a game, and assuming the same team gets them, all of a sudden they're in a position to sneak a fire where maybe it wouldn't have been possible otherwise.
Keep an eye on WorstTurtle's build as well. Looks like he's working a little bit deeper into that pill for Heartseeker soon enough. He's already got that Transcendence stacking up nicely for himself. Still has the cooldown on with this patch. Crit-wise though, you can see Spudio does have that Rage online. Meanwhile, Joshy hasn't gone for that option, but for the pen situation, and Joshy might just need some of that pen to get away here, or at least deal some damage back. But he's forced to use his ult defensively there. Freshly Forged a little bit late on that rotation. Snakepit just looking for a pick or to poke people out before this Fury spawns.
Freshly Forged would love to find something similar, but they just haven't been able to get there. Faeles, it feels like this Ares was great from levels like 5 to 8, and then all of a sudden beads are up too often for him. We haven't seen as much come down. I mean, he was 2-0, now 4-2. He hasn't been able to pick up as much anywhere near the level he was at.
Sustained from Devour's Gauntlet, helping out Spudio to keep taking that up. A big fight going in. WorstTurttle to the back line though, looking for PrettyPriMe. Beads egg his shoes and a shell from Callus too. Spudio on the other side of the fight. They get aggressed on by Deathwalker, but Deathwalker forced to fall back towards Freshly Forged and the rest of his team. Grouping as 5 still, waiting for the opportunity to re-engage. Primal Fury forward, but Callus brings him with the abduct. Damage onto Callus is heavy, forced to ult himself, and Terrorem will execute that away. Dazer getting low again, gets a good root off. Fury's reset. For the time being, will start to regen, just that single pick for now. Terrorem around the back, will use the execute to close the gap again towards Prime. WorstTurttle is hunting on the backside, looking for that mage pick, finds the wall, the hammer, the spin, and PrettyPriMe is out of action too. 2 kills now for Snakepit as they force Freshly Forged away from this Primal Fury.
And now they can fall back and do exactly what they wanted to in the first place, which is that Primal Fury, and WorstTurtle still zoning, gonna get yeeted off into the infinite. Actually, with Faeles still around, this could very well be a kill, but I love, again, Snakepit are looking after their own. It's just so clean.
And the Fury does go down. Luckily enough for WorstTurtle there, after getting hit by Joshy's ultimate, the trajectory of pathing where he ended up falling down was just very positive for him.
Yeah.
And that little nook between that Alpha Harpy and the purple buff made it tricky for Joshy to potentially secure that kill, because 1 basic should have been enough there.
Yeah, being in that position. It also helps, I think, Dazer rotates over. Like, the fact that they finish that Primal and immediately go over just to kind of zone, be that shield, like, hey, you can get aggressive, you can kill WorstTurtle here if you want to, but you're going to forfeit your life to do so. You're going to have to give something up if you want to get that deep. And so it's giving them, again, net positives all across the board. The fact that they don't lose anyone if you're Snakepit in that fight is huge for them. And again, 7 kills for Freshly Forged. They're keeping it close in count. 6 of them are on Dazer, and at this point in the game, Dazer's going to be much more difficult to kill. They farmed him early, but it's not going to rotate or translate anywhere near as well in this post-20-minute world.
Completely agree, and it looks like Dazer might be going towards a Lotus Crown next on the list. It's all a dance around the Fire Giant. Pyromancer is available, going to be initiated on by Snakepit. Only 2 members strong. They don't really have Angry or Spudio there to really burst it down for the time being, though. So we'll have to wait. Spudio, meanwhile, did just come back from base with a Deathbringer, so the crits just increased again now for this Jingwei in the jungle. There's no real Spectrals on the team, even though there's a nice bit of physical defense at least.
Yeah, it's not going to be enough to cut down that crit exactly, but it might be enough to stop this fight right here. Pyromancer goes down. Freshly Forged are just going to fall back.
Yeah, Deathwalker did a good attempt there. The little blink in, looking to strip it away at the tail end of that pyro. Just fall back from everybody here on both sides. Obviously, Freshly Forged are just trying to find some farm and Snake Pit. Well, they're kind of in control, trying to choose what they want to do next, really. It's up to them to, I feel like, initiate these fights or look to pick a target first and keep this advantage rolling.
My eyes keep falling onto Faeles. Like, every time I look down at the bottom of the screen, it's Ares. Every time I look to the right of the screen, it's Ares. Like, that's the only thing my mind can focus on right now. And it mainly comes down to the fact that last team, like, big team fight, didn't use his ult. Beads have now all completely come back for Snake Pit, so he's not getting the value you want out of this ult. Like, if you're not going to be able to pull him, the best you can do is burn their beads, and that sets up someone else. And I was going for Terrorem.
Speaking of burning beads, he will at least burn the ultimate out of Terrorem here on this Achilles. That's a big-time ultimate here, especially against this Cavalry. Good idea to really play that one out, but we'll see how it works out. With break walls coming through once again from Snake Pit, forcing Callus under pressure. Spudio went a little bit too far forward, though, and his health will chipped in half. Does have to go Devour's Gauntlets for some lifesteal, though, if he needs them. To get some minions online. Snake Pit not really giving up. It's a 5v5 on the solo side of the map. Bit of assault for you all at home. We'll see how this one works out. The only difference is they got to choose their own gods here.
I mean, yeah, they're just hanging out. They're going to be able to come through, and theoretically they should get a tier 1 tower here. It's whether or not they can pick anything up afterward. Deathwalker does enough damage to push them back, but this is the glorious thing about Terra. This is why Divine Ruin, the Pestilence they've picked up, is important. They've got sustain for days on Snake Pit. They can stay in this lane and play this game because any amount of poke that Freshly Forged do that doesn't result in the kill is just going to get healed off.
So Snake Pit did get that tier 1 tower. It was definitely an interesting engagement there because Freshly Forged are like, well, if they dive this without minions, we could potentially pick one and then go FG ourselves. And Snake Pit at the same time like, well, if we take this fight under a weakened tier 1, if it goes well for us, that's a fire giant for us too. So I can kind of see the reasoning for it. It just felt very risky for both teams to really think that way about that situation, especially around that fire giant pit.
It's a dangerous game, but I think Snake Pit specifically, like Freshly Forged, the reason they fall back is because the best case scenario for them, and it's the least likely scenario, is, hey, maybe we get a big team fight win right here without, Faeles ult being online, and then we can rotate to Fire Giant. But Snake Pit, with the lead they've cultivated, with the control they've had, and the sustain they have, under a tier 1, that fight should go their way almost every single time. So they can afford that risk, if that makes sense. They can, pay it off a little bit and be like, you know what? If we lose this fight, that's going to, be very unfortunate for us. But for the worst case scenario, equalizes the game. It doesn't really give Freshly Forged a huge advantage.
Well, a bit more penetration now online for Angry as well. Got that Staff of Mirrodin in the mid lane. We've seen this a little bit more this season. 110 power, 10% pen, and 10% cooldown reduction. But more importantly, that passive could come into play a little bit here. So when you've used your ultimate, you've got a chance to recast the next ability you use. So it could be an extra bit more CC or a little bit more burst damage, which is something that Snake Pit needs to rely on as this game goes on.
And depending on where Angry wants to go, it could be more CC, which could help lock down multiple members of Freshly Forged, or it could just be more damage, which would help kill them, theoretically, after that ult comes through. And this is exactly like the kind of area he likes to fight in. A nice place to bounce that ult off of if he can fight.
Primal Fury down. Spudio does get credit for that with the rest of Snake pinning. To the back line goes WorstTurttle. Low health boss forces out the shell from Callus. Terrorem already takes out Joshy. And one by one, they're crumbling in the jungle here. Freshly Forged running for the exits as fast as they can. But the chase is on as Dazer blinks in to make sure he blocks out Deathwalker's escape. Callus, meanwhile, falls down trying to get past the Harpies. And now this could be an opportunity for Snake Pit to choose what they want to do next. Is it tier 2 or is it the FG?
It looks like it should be FG, and honestly, that's what I'd be screaming, although they're in that position. Again, not anything that's big in terms of steal, but Faeles being in the area, PrettyPriMe being able to potentially rotate back in. It's cause for alarm, and that's why Terrorem can go, get aggressive, go for the zone. But they're going to be looking for a defense. This should be a free fire.
It really does show how much Freshly Forged have been struggling as of late, They made it very late through to the group stages to qualify for this Challenger circuit. And up against this Snake Pit team, which on paper, when you look at the two name powered teams that you've got here, you definitely would normally on paper go Freshly Forged should win this. But just look at how well Snake Pit are playing together here. This is great.
I mean, I feel like we've had I'll tack this week on 5 weeks in a row of looking at Freshly Forged's roster and being like,
Yeah.
man, name power and like what we've seen out of these guys in the past, it says that it absolutely should be the most dominant force that we have in Europe in general, not just in this game, but the fact that they are having as much struggles as they are. And kind of the question has to come down to where. Right now, I'm potentially looking at the draft more than anything. Like, I think
that's true. It's
the theory behind the Ares jungle is good. The execution isn't quite matching up with what you want on paper.
Well, when you say that, I mean, it's hard to, point your finger at the Ares, pick, especially when it's 4-2-1 in this game, right? Like, he's doing things for his team. He's burning the beads. But I just don't think it's consistent enough damage for them to really, be able to secure kills. I think that's really starting to struggle in this one. However, the other thing to mention really is Freshly Forged is team chemistry. Sure, these are all name-powered players, but they've not really played together that much through the years. So they've got to find that synergy. They've got to work out, how does Prime like to play mid? How does Joshy like to play duo? And how does the main trio really function to you?
Then it's been interesting because Joshy has been going more, again, just pin style. He's played a lot of Heimdall in the last couple of weeks as well. So it's definitely been a little bit slower pace, it feels like, out of the duo lane, even though this game they started very far ahead with it. It's just Snake Pit playing more or less what we've seen dominate in the league, or I guess in the qualifiers, these last few weeks. And they're playing it exactly the way they want to. Freshly Forged are still kind of sticking their necks out for different strategies, but it's not paid off yet.
WorstTurttle gonna go towards the mid lane, try and keep Faeles busy. 4-on-4 on the left-hand side, so a bit of a split difference. WorstTurtle a bit of a double tap, but don't forget he can get to that left-hand fight a lot quicker than what we'll see out of this Ares. No minion waving in mid for the time being, so it's just these two lanes being sieged up. We're just waiting for the opportunity for either side to break into a fight. Stepping forward, goes Snake Pit. Dazer tanking up the front line of the Phoenix. Allows Spudio just to whittle down Callus to 0 health. No use of the ultimate or shell there. More damage than bargained for. Snake Pit now in a 4v5.
And they're in a perfect position to at least siege one Phoenix down, because WorstTurttle had to back off. But it doesn't matter. You get the most important one left, Phoenix. Fire minions now on the furthest possible lane from the Fire Giant. And a good amount of control. Being able to just open that part of the map up sets them up to focus on mid, which, as of right now, still in a 4v5, it's looking pretty easy.
And Prime just lost half his health already, and the beads. Into the sky goes WorstTurttle, dunking Prime on the backside. Aegis will buy him a second. The rest of his team will support too. WorstTurtle should end up falling down here, pulled in by Faeles. All the while, the Phoenix being chipped away out by Spudio, who already got the kill on Deathwalker. 2 Phoenixes down, Snake Pit turn their tails. Damage has been done to Freshly Forged base.
Just being able to crack it open like that, it makes the biggest difference. And the fact that the next Fury is going to be an Oni Fury, that will come up for Snake Pit as well. Fire minions that are Oni Fury buffed is a pretty good bargain to get yourself and get your team into the base. Again, worst case scenario in that is that in a minute and 20 seconds, when those minions are kind of getting up near the Phoenix line anyway, you're at the Fire Giant very happily, and successfully taking it, because everybody on Freshly Forged is busy defending mid and left.
Now, Fire Giant's going to wear off in 5 seconds' time on the side of Snake Pit, so they're going to have to return back to that side to see what happens next. Freshly Forged trying to stay in it, though. I'm just not sure how they really get back inside. Maybe it's a FG or a pick around this left-hand side of the Fury, funny enough. Callus ends up being bursted down way too quick. Spudio getting credit for the kill again. And this is becoming a real problem for them now, Gormeister. They've got 5v4 again for the next 40 seconds.
I think Spudio has become a huge impact player in this late game as this transition. Essentially finish the Rage, then finish the Deathbringer. And there's only one Spectral Armor online for Freshly Forged, and it is not doing enough to keep them in this fight so far. Callus is just getting ticked on. And even if he transitions into it now, the question is the damage already done? That gold lead has almost hit 20,000, and that is substantial in Smite. The fact that they've been this far in control, it's going to make it very difficult for Freshly Forged to find the right picks in the right time. They need good rotations, they need good shot calls, and they're going to need this Fire Giant.
Well, with an Oni Fury wave coming down mid and the left-hand side too, it makes it even trickier now for Freshly Forged to really do anything about this. All I can really hope for is a steal from that G, but it doesn't look like they're going to go that route either. Instead, Snake Pit going to pick this one up and probably start to barrel down this right-hand side. Even on that mid wave, you can see those white little circles around the minions. Just shows they're even more empowered than a normal fire minion wave.
That's a very frightening thought here's the fire minions that are already very difficult to kill and do a lot of damage. Now they're empowered, and it pulls Deathwalker out of the base.
Good play from Dazer just to apply that ultimate. And there's the execute going through the defensive ultimate from Kefri. Double kill for Terrorem now in towards Prime, who blinks, flickers away for the time being, but Tom's still chasing. As is Spudio, one by one they fall like dominoes. Terrorem with a triple. Spudio steals his quadra, but it doesn't matter now. Game one gonna go the way of Snake Pit. Eventually, they're just gonna try and farm Faeles first of all. It won't be the case. The minions will do the work for them. Snake Pit take this one in 33 minutes.
Yeah, a lot of early aggression that gets rid of Dazer, but it doesn't really result in anything I think that they wanted. Dazer has 6 deaths, 10 minutes into the game it felt like, and well, he ended the game with 6 deaths. The fact that they focused him so much didn't make the difference for them. I'm just wondering if it was a little bit of the drafting phase getting out of hand, and then a little bit of where they were prioritizing targets there for Freshly Forged, that it just kind of slipped right through their fingers.
Not gonna lie, this has been my favorite SCC cast ever, because it's the first SCC cast ever, I guess, in one sense. But here's a little look at the post-game stats. Terrorem 7, 0, and 8, and you can see most of the kills that Freshly Forged got were really just on Dazer. Sure, pick the support in the early game.
Yeah.
It's not gonna help out too much.
Well, and it comes down to the fact that Terrorem, I think this Achilles worked out really well for him, not just because he played it well, but it was the perfect counter pick to that Khepri. And again, I'm looking at it in the draft phase. If you maybe save Khepri for later down, they think, oh, maybe they're going to go for the Terror. Maybe they're going to go for something else. Maybe this Ares that's been locked in as jungle is actually support. And you could play around it a little bit more, and that Achilles doesn't get picked up. But it was there for the executes. They focused so much on Terra early on that even what they had going for them didn't pay off. It just, again, felt like Freshly Forged fell too far behind to make up for anything.
Well, it's time then to take a break and see if Snake Pit can answer, well, find the second win of the day, or if Freshly Forged will answer back. I'm going to go and get myself some more coffee. Be right back. Welcome back for game number 2. Stay salty, anyone that doesn't like my outfit today. I'm being cozy and I'm having fun. So is Gore. And Gore, I've got to talk about the stuff in your background, man. You've got a lot of stuff.
And what's funny is this is just I'd say this is half of what I have. I have a lot of,
that's it.
Depending on what you want to say, I have a lot of junk or a lot of collector things. Like right here next to me is my Power Ranger shrine, I think is what my wife calls it. Katie it's a lot of Power Ranger stuff from top to bottom. I've got Megazords, I've got Morphers, I've got coins, it's everything.
I gotta stop paying you in gems, man. You seem to be making a lot. All I got is
rolling in it.
There's a keyboard and a bathroom. Okay, Jingwei, Yamoja banned away by Freshly Forged. They're going to be first pick this time. I want to see what they can do differently here. Kamazot's Athena from Snake Pit 2. Kind of standard. This Athena one is definitely something that's on the rise, though. So I want to see how this works out as we get further and deeper into competitive play over the course of the year.
It definitely feels like she's been showing up. And I think a lot of people are looking at what potency she has, and that she almost always has, and then, well, it turns out that, hey, she's pretty good as a god in general, and so when she's in meta, or when things shift, I think, to be more like this, she goes through. It also might just be saying something about Freshly Forged, because both times it's been against them, maybe they just have a sick Athena.
Completely true. Persephone, though, for Freshly Forged, not seen her in a little while. A lot of people still say she's very strong in competitive play, but you do have to play her effectively, and some people do struggle there. Thor and Odin, though. Odin does slip through the first ban phase, so Snake Pit going to pick that up. Do you reckon that's going to go to Dazer maybe here, or is it flexible to that solo lane?
I think it's flexible. I mean, that's something that we've seen, although it hasn't necessarily been in solo as often lately. I'm trying to think of the last time I actually saw Odin go over there, and a lot of the time it really has been this aggressive support. And it would actually counter out a lot of what they did last game on the side of Freshly Forged. I mean, they were picking on Dazer a lot. Try picking on him when he can stun you, cage you, and then just kill you outright along with his ADC.
Ullr, Fafnir locked in, then Kukulkan in response to this Persephone. So from what I can see from, the Snake Pit so far, Kuku very controlling, one of the more potent picks in the mid lane as of late, alongside, I'd say, Persephone in terms of just, control of the map.
And it's interesting to see how far down he makes it. I think that comes down to Snake Pit only feeling comfortable with, well, they picked Persephone, there's no way they're also going to pick Kukulkan.
That's true.
But I wonder if this Persephone, it's going to be that tug of war, right? Kukulkan is a little easier to execute, and still gets a lot done for your mid lane. So I feel like he should take priority overall. But Persephone in the right hands is bonkers good. So I think if they can get this Persephone online, get her rolling the right way, Snakepit should be a little worried.
Anhur now locked in to go up against this Ullr, more than likely in the dual lane. Susano in the jungle this time as well, up against the Thor. I expect to see the rise of Susano as time goes on. I think we're starting to see a little bit more of him already. And now with the Geb, that already screams that Freshly Forged is going to be running this Fafnir possibly in the solo lane. I've been seeing a little bit more of that just lately.
Well, I'll be interested to see how it handles. Again, I think when it comes down to it, a lot of what you want out of him will make sense over there. Although, I do think, specifically because of his 2, you might want him with a duo. But hey, Susano ganks, I expect to see maybe a lot of them. It's going to be empowered. It's going to be a lot of damage. Vamana's strong. Actually, all of Snakepit have a very solid lineup, but we'll have to see how it can handle what Freshly Forged picked up.
As you can see, that Vamana locked in. We'll see how this works out then. So it's more than likely Odin in the duo lane here is what I'm expecting, the support role for Dazer, and that's exactly what we're going to see. Funny enough, Deathwalker will be taking that Geb to the solo lane instead. So we'll see how this Geb does. It could be a bit trickier.
Definitely. I mean, we've seen it in the past. In fact, we've seen it work so potently in the solo lane in the past that Geb even became one of the top picks in the league at certain points and was kind of good, but again, it's that question mark. Kalis works well because of the empowering he can give to his ADC. Geb works well because we're at a crit meta and his passive helps counter that already. So it's a push and pull. They pick 2 good supports to send around the map. The question is are they in the right spot, right, for Freshly Forged? Can they make them work that way?
Completely agree. Now, Terrorem on this right-hand side, as you can see, will be playing the Vamana up against Geb, so should have a bit of decent control in this lane, although wave clear is a little bit substandard at level 1 for both these 2 characters. So just keep an eye on what the junglers end up doing. Junglers are in mid lane, as the mid lane is clearing out the red buffs after wave 1. Right, and Harpy's gonna go the way there of Faeles on the Susano, but over the wall jumps WorstTurttle. A right opportunity in time that could have gone wrong for either one. To the duo lane we go though, and Joshy's just a little bit further behind than that of Spudio off that level 1 engage, and I guess just that's the power of Odin in this early game.
Yeah, Odin's definitely going to make it hard. And honestly, it's where, not Odin, Ullr sits on the other side early on. Level 1, level 2, his clear can be solid, but when it's Odin on her you're up against, you are not going to be able to control this lane the way that you want to. So Snakepit theoretically should have control over here. Dazer, though, is going to be maybe under the eye of scrutiny just because of how many deaths he had last game. He's a lot squishier this time around, even though it's maybe harder to kill him. It might be worth rotating for Freshly Forged.
Yeah, definitely. Odin not just an ult bot anymore, though. Will bring a bit more to the team fight. That stun, hold on to, can be pretty impactful at certain moments, and here's being channeled right about now. You can see the hammer quickly used there in response by Kalis. Faeles in the mid lane, though, trying to keep aggressive on Angry. And that's going to be an important job, I feel, for Faeles this game. Sorry, on this Susano, trying to catch and get hold of this Kukulkan.
That's going to be, I think, a big point of contention. Kukulkan, the plus side of killing him is that, hey, at least we take his damage off the board. The downside is his ult is realistically, like, in the late game, even if Susano can sit on him, if you get a good ult as Angry here, and every single fight, you can sacrifice your life after that. You don't want to. It's not going to be the best case scenario for you. But hey, maybe you kill 1 or 2 people with your ult. Maybe you confirm an objective. Like, he should be a target because of how potent it's going to be. And I just don't know if Faeles is going to be able to consistently get back to him with WorstTurttle and Dazer kind of playing bodyguard.
Definitely felt coming into this set though, this was one that Freshly Forged could win and get themselves off to a good start, but right now WorstTurttle getting aggressive with Faeles. Faeles doing a good job of chopping people down, but Deathwalker under a bit more pressure has to shield himself. He falls back though, blue buff is still alive on that right hand side. Snakepit can't find the invader after just yet, but Terrorem still, well, trying to terrorize in the jungle. Won't be able to find the umbrella rank this time though, and now turns his attention back towards the right hand side, back towards the laning phase. Blue buff will finally be secured for Freshly Forged.
Alright, and for Snakepit as they fall back to their own. WorstTurtle is going to need a little bit of the sustain in the jungle to kind of keep it going. But it's been this blink, and I like where Terrorem's at because he's been getting aggressive, actually aggressive. Spudio forced to fall back.
Yeah, it took a ton of damage there, but didn't use his beads, more importantly for Spudio. They're very, very important for him this game, of how he's going to manage these beads against these Callous Fafnir hammers. Alongside Joshy, axe stun that can come through. Damage onto Dazer was huge there. The shield came up just after using the full combination of what Joshy can really throw at him. And Joshy here, they go with that Mage's Blessing at the start here, so a bit more cooldown, a bit more regeneration to an extent, but it does delay the build elsewhere.
Yeah, it's going to help slow things down a little bit, but again, this is something Joshy has done in the last couple of weeks. Granted, I don't know if I've seen it be successful for him, but it's definitely something that we've seen him picking it up. Again, this lane's just going to be difficult for him no matter what because of the fact that this Odin's going to be over here. I'm actually kind of surprised that we haven't seen our first blood just yet. That's more, I think, kind of status showing that we're in EU more than anything, because Dazer, a good stun setup in the right spot. Spudio can follow up with an intel to the wall or to his pillar. Like, it's a kill lane for sure.
Really good point then on that as well. Just regarding like how it's EU and it's a little bit slow. Both these teams really do know each other pretty well here. Dazer's trying to hold the wave, and this could cause him a lot more problems than Morgan's full hammer connects, burst through. Dazer has one health potion, so he'll live for now. There's going to be another trip back to base sooner rather than later that he wouldn't really wanted. But at least it gave Spudio more of an experience lead, and I think that's the reason he was doing that.
And that's going to be helpful overall, just kind of keeping it ahead. Again, Dazer is probably going to hit the same stagnant point we see a lot as WorstTurttle comes crashing down in mid.
And you actually saw Angry fire the ult straight away as the ult landed, but the early beads from PrettyPriMe keeps him nice and safe in that mid lane, away from the danger. But now those beads are on cooldown, there's a bit more susceptibility to gank this Persephone. On the right hand side, you can see the pathing towards the blue buff is happening once again. Terrorem trying to keep this pressure on this Geb in the laning phase as much as possible. Sure, it's not the easiest thing in the world to kill the Geb, but trying to deny him farm when we can is going to be very important.
That's, again, more important than I think they realize, honestly, because it's one thing to be able to get aggressive, and right now aggressive is going to be the name of the game. Terrorem actually might be able to isolate Deathwalker here. Faeles is forced to retreat from his own jungle. Dazer's now coming over to join the party. Like, the fact that they're getting this aggressive on Snakepit shows that they know how much control they have. Some of it even, I think, lasting from last game, like just knowing that they are able to corral Freshly Forged into where they want them. PrettyPriMe has been having a rough time in mid. Faeles isn't necessarily getting everything done out of the jungle. Hasn't found any really successful ganks. And again, even though there isn't a first blood, it definitely feels like the kill ability for Snakepit, the ability to find their kills, I guess, is much higher right now than it is for Freshly Forged.
Completely agree. In the early game, I definitely feel like Snakepit have the advantage of finding kills. But as the game goes on, I started to turn my attention to what Freshly Forged will do in these team fights. I mean, you've got that Grasp of Death from Persephone that's so impactful across the map. And not only that, a big Cataclysm can really make a big impact. Don't forget that the higher level your Geb is, the more that Cataclysm does in terms of damage. Like, it's really useful.
And the fact that you can use those two in tandem of each other. So yeah, 35% in the late game, but you're going to be seeing that of their current health. That I guess is the big point. You want it as your initiation, but then you hit that, PrettyPriMe throws his ult on the people you've stunned and they're locked down even longer. Like the CC chain, it should be enough for Faeles, Prime, or Joshy to just damage dump into one area and wipe everyone that gets hit.
Well, at the moment, everyone's just starting to position again towards the blue buff side of the map, where you can see that's spawning relatively soon here. Left-hand side, bit of pressure coming out from Joshy again on this Ullr, which is what you'd expect in the early game, especially with Callous hanging around the jungle, but Spudio will get a bit of help thanks to the wall that he just bought. Callous going to deny that option, though, with the sentry. And WorstTurttle now making the rotation over to. Has the ultimate available here, does the Thor, the aggression on Spudio was good. Oh, at the tail end of that damage just hit onto Joshy there, causing a lot of problems. It will allow WorstTurttle to at least defend the purple buff for now, as Dazer and the rest of Snakepit head towards to defend their own red.
Dazer's going to be able to channel up the stun. They're going to pause real fast as it comes through, but it's a very interesting scenario. Red buff just now taken by Snakepit. Dazer, it kind of feels like he's looking for something, but Spudio's out of the fight. And if he comes back in, there's very high chance of him dying. So they have to play this carefully as to where they want to get aggressive. Ults are online, and we haven't seen a lot of them connecting just yet. So there's some potential for either squad to get aggressive here and find that first blood.
Yeah, I agree. I think Freshly Forged at the moment are doing a very good job, though, delaying this early game, the advantages that Snake Pit have in this early game, and making sure that when they get to this mid game, they've got a real shot at it. Speaking of that, Callus was doing great work onto Dazer. Faeles does come in and secure the kill, but Callus could end up falling down here. Will jump away and shell himself at least, and get back to safety for the time being.
All right, it's really weird because my mind says, awesome, you got first blood. That's a huge lead for you, especially getting it onto Susano. Fails. Let him get some items, get ahead of WorstTurttle, and get some more control to help find ganks in other lanes. And then the other part of my brain is screaming, yeah, but also it's Dazer, and he died 6 times last game, and we saw how that went.
Spudio pressured again, forced the beads there, and used the Desert Fury on top of that to give himself a little bit more room away from the aggressive Freshly Forged again. Just that first blood going down for Faeles. That 400 gold bounty should help his build a little bit more so. Deathwalker in the jungle, getting put out of position. Does have his Cataclysm available and will hit 3 with it. The rollout begins, the chase is on. And Deathwalker will finally get that immunity he was craving to make sure the slows don't continue the effect.
And
the power of...
just forced out. Not any big kill, not any, like, nothing substantial enough, I think, to give a huge win to Snake Pit for that big of a rotation. And so it's, again, opening this avenue of conversation. I think last game, 3 tanks might have been a little bit too much, or, well, 3 tanks with an asterisk. Achilles building Bruiser-ish had less damage than you would have thinked or would have hoped, I guess, going into the late game. Now you've gone back down. Deathwalker's hard to kill, as we've already seen. Callus should be joining him in that list pretty soon here. And so you need these ganks to be more substantial. They need to find something out of it as well. I'm looking at Gold Fury being even bigger just because of how few kills are on this. Like, objectives are going to play a huge role this game.
This purple.
And Freshly Forged want to fight.
I was going to say, yeah, around this purple buff is where the focus seems to be. Now onto the red, you can see the rotation coming in from Faeles 2, 3 on 3, around the middle area. Grasp of Death used on WorstTurttle, who's taking a ton of damage, forced to the sky. Dazer's still trapped in the Grasp of Death. He's a casualty, giving another kill for Freshly Forged. WorstTurttle jumps towards mid lane to rotate and prepare for Deathwalker, who actually still finds the kill onto Angry, who's on the tail end. That's 3 kills now for Freshly Forged.
Just being able to set themselves up. Gold Fury should be the call, and they're raking the rotation over. I'm looking at WorstTurttle and Terrorem, where they want to go, because it looks like they want to invade the jungle. It looks like maybe they want to push. Maybe they have enough damage. That's a very huge question mark to try and push a Pyromancer and get something out of this, but neither of them even hinting at the Gold Fury or trying to contend it. They recognize the loss and just let it go.
Great Gold Fury then for Freshly Forged, and this is what we expected to see out of him in this mid-game. It is a little bit early when I say mid-game, they're only 10 minutes in, but you can start to see how this composition's coming together for Freshly Forged and making more of an impact than we did last game. PrettyPrime's ultimate there, the Grasp of Death, caused so many problems.
And it's such good lockdown, and depending on where we are, I mean, looking at the Challenger circuit, these teams will work together to break that grasp. But it's not going to come anywhere near fast enough for you to feel, I think, the efficacy of it. A lot of people getting locked down in scenarios like that, it's enough to, well, end a team fight for you or in favor of whoever has the Persephone. Pyromancer gets melted down. That shows why Kukulkan should be the #1 target as well. That ult on the other side is just so good at confirming any objective. So PrettyPrime can lock down the team, they can find a kill, it's great. Angry can just find the kill outright. It has to be targeted.
Oh yeah, definitely indeed. PrettyPrime, they're going to continue to try and lock down this middle area. Dazer going to find him and Callus in the jungle. Callus with a little bit of a lead over Dazer at the moment as a tune to the dual lane again, where Spudio is still matching pace with Joshy, even though every time this buff's come up on the left-hand side, it's Freshly Forged getting aggressive, looking to find more picks. Snake Pit haven't found an answer to this just yet. They've been consistently losing a little bit of experience, a life or 2 here and there. Terrorem, though, chasing down Deathwalker on the right-hand side. But it is a Geb, and the rollout will outspeed the big baby eventually.
Has no mana as well, so Terrorem kind of committing to that fight, realistically just trying to push Deathwalker out of there and trying to keep control of this lane, stop some of the proxy that's been going on. Deathwalker has been much more dominant this time around than we got to see in the last game. The same thing can be said over here for Joshy and the way they've been playing. I kind of expected a lot out of Dazer and Spudio, and it's all floundered. I mean, there's been nothing out of that lane. Nothing to say about the Anhur other than when he's had to use his beads and ult defensively, and the only thing so far that Dazer's accomplished, other than a few good stuns here and there, has been the fact that he's been the recipient of a lot of kills. Well, 2 kills so far. It's starting off really solid for Freshly Forged. If they can keep this pace up, the game is absolutely in their favor.
You can start to see them getting aggressive here now. Snake Pit in response. They're looking for an invade of their own at the red buff, but Callus is already in the area. Callus working on those Gauntlet of Thieves stacks. The red is begun. Dazer from one side, Turtle from the other. Buff is attemptedly stolen away. Meanwhile, Callus in a bit of an awkward spot, or is he? He seems to be chasing through the jungle on his own at the moment. Jumps over the wall, looks for a hammer. Won't be able to find it this time round. Faeles was on the rotation, as was Deathwalker. Red buff is still down for a few moments' time. Damage now starting to hit onto Dazer here. Big ultimate coming through from Angry. Deathwalker's very low, still trapped in the cage, trying to get the rollout away. Does get knocked back at least by Terrorem, but Deathwalker is out and perfectly safe. Faeles, on the other hand, might be a different story. He's going for a bit of pressure. Joshy gets a kill on Worst on the backside. Faeles still running away. Terrorem still trying to give chase. Looks for the umbrella and juked out by Faeles, but not well enough. Faeles ends up falling down too. Joshy, meanwhile, fires hold of Angry, and now he's way too far forward. Needs support from his team. Deathwalker back to base with a TP, and it's a 4-man grouping in mid for Freshly Forged.
Keep getting aggressive. Deathwalker has Cataclysm if he wants to. A good blink in a scenario like this, unfortunately for him, it's on cooldown. Could set them up with the shield, allows them to push forward. This should be a tier 1, if not another kill if they want to get aggressive.
Oh yeah, Dazer already dead. Didn't even need that Cataclysm from Deathwalker at the tail end, really. Tier 1 tower is going to get whittled down by Joshy. Fury's up in about a minute's time. Red buff and purple are also here. Freshly Forged just continuing to keep these on lockdown.
And I'm just impressed with Deathwalker in that scenario, and maybe not even anything that came out of his control, just how tanky he was. They invest so much into him. Snake Pit tried to kill him, and he still made it out. In fact, the fact that they didn't get a kill, they only got 1 kill out of all of that. Everything they invested floors me right now. My mind is still kind of swimming in that fight. 3 kills for Freshly Forged, plus the tier 1. I mean, that was about as bad as it could get for Snake Pit with what they used. So many ults down that will come up, but they need more.
Prime under pressure, will avoid the ultimate out from Angry, but not the dashing from Turtle. Berserker Barrage finds a kill. However, Faeles was there for backup, and we'll make that a 1-for-1 exchange. Prime's going to clear with the wave in mid. And I think that's one thing players can definitely abuse a little bit. At least clear the wave, right? You can keep getting farm and experience even though you're dead, especially if you can't find a kill.
And it helps save his lane just a little bit. Again, that tier 1 in mid is powerful, but realistically only as powerful as long as you can keep your tower up to stop it from being traded. So, get rid of that pressure that they were trying to apply there. And as unfortunate as it is to use your passive, it does put you in a position to keep your team, again, afloat around this Fury as it's respawned, and potentially look for some more kills.
Joshy can find the axe there. We'll throw a bit of damage onto Dazer. Bit surprised by that. Both his relics on cooldown. He has to definitely be careful about his positioning around there. But 16% this time Fury is up. And already Snake Pit have pulled in Callus in the area. And alongside Ullr, nobody else on Freshly Forged around. The back timing couldn't have been better for Snake Pit. And they will secure that Fury on this left-hand side before Freshly Forged can do anything about it.
Well, and WorstTurtle's going to go diving in, looking for Joshy. He's going to go over the wall, but that's a good blink.
Terrorem will find that kill. Callus rotates back towards mid with Persephone, but straight away Dazer drops the ring down, keeping 2 in place. Everybody's into the plant laid in the back line, and the big baby's gonna make her life hell. PrettyPriMe falls to death, but Deathwalker does at least take that WorstTurttle in response. Dazer tanking up the tower, has to fall back. Prime gets a kill with that passive still in effect. Causing a lot of problems. Dazer getting lower as the rollout connects, as does the shockwave, but it's not enough to bring down that tanky Odin for the time being. Terrorem on the front line just trying to zone away some of the carries. Freshly Forged still trying to aggress here. They can find another pick that's going to be good for them.
Oh, they're looking for Callus. The tornado is going to be able to tick down a little bit. Deathwalker's still in the area. I think they're going to call it as a wash there. They don't have what they need to dive deep to get Callus. And there's not many other targets for them to try and pick up. But this leaves Freshly Forged in position for the Pyromancer. They can make that rotation over. And it kind of feels like no one comes out ahead. Like in a really weird twist of events, I think having Primal Fury and having that passive available for Snake Pit will probably come online later around some Fire Giants, maybe a Pyromancer once it respawns. But I don't see them really leaving that fight happy. They get some good kills, maybe they get some experience, but there's not so much that I'm thinking, yeah, we win the fight as Snake Pit. It just kind of feels like you moved the game along without gaining.
That's true. I do think like, they kind of delayed PrettyPriMe a little bit in mid. They killed him back to back almost, right? He died in the jungle near red, comes back to the fight, dies again. So it does allow a bit of a catch-up session for Angry, who was 0-2-0. And funny enough, Angry on that Kukulkan, going for that breastplate of valor. Normally you like to see the cuckoos, you know, sure, getting attacked is something you're going to expect to have happen to you. You really want those tornadoes to do a ton of damage. Sure, cooldown will help with that. And if you're dead, you don't deal damage. But I'd definitely rather have seen more pen coming through or more damage options rather than a breastplate personally.
Yeah, it's not something we see often, and it realistically is coming down from the fact that Faeles and Joshy, more than anything, have been rotating over to cause a lot of trouble for him. But, I mean, I don't know. If I want to justify it, it's the fact that he's going to get a lot of damage from his passive anyway, so Angry can afford to shift an item into something more protective for him. But like you said early on, you're going to be missing out on a lot, and I feel like we might not see much damage for him until he switches off what looks like it's going to be an Obsidian.
You see Callus there in the mid lane, really just trying to harass Angry, trying to force the hammer, force the beads if possible, as you can keep it on that right-hand side. Doug there, still spectating for us, even with the current stream setup. Kadusha Shield online, and that's going to be really useful for the likes of a Vamana. He's going to love the protections, but not only that, the extra sustain he's going to get from that.
And the sustain is going to just be so potent. There's Divine Ruin, but there's not much else. Oh, actually, a Brawler's Beat Sticks coming online as well, but there's no Curse Donk picked up here for Freshly Forged. And in terms of what we've seen, and specifically what we've talked about for a few weeks now, you're trying to kill Vamana, you need way more to commit to this. 3-0 right now for Terrorem, but I mean, he might be more than just a regular Terror this game. I expect a lot out of this Vamana as time continues.
And you should just keep an eye on that build too, because there's a cheeky little bit of crit in that Vamana build right now. So I want to see where that ends up going towards. Will it be a rage potentially here? We'll find out as this goes on. But if you do get hit by that big baby to crit you, you're going to have a bad time, especially if it's a bit more versatile to bargain for. Although, I don't really value it against a Geb individually, sure. But it's going to keep the pressure going, I guess.
I think a lot of it is that he's going to try to shift his focus. He's looking to sit on Persephone, here on Prime, on Joshy, on Faeles. Like, Terrorem wants to terrorize anybody on the back line that is Freshly Forged. He doesn't care about Geb anymore. That was good for the laning phase, but now he wants to go back and get a squishy. And the best way to get a squishy, I mean, if you can crit them for a third of their health, that's always solid.
Snake Pit getting aggressive towards Duo. Focus cooking towards Callus here. Tuning with WorstTurttle, man, the double tap. And the walls. But Callus will survive for the time being. Traps inside the ring. Now forced to use the ultimate to try and get himself away again. Desert Fury comes through from Spudio, but Callus leaps away. So far, it's a lot of ultimates invested by Snake Pit to try and kill a support that is still alive.
It's the exact same thing that just happened with Deathwalker, except they use one less ult this time. They don't use Angry's ult. And now they don't have anything to really fight. Yes, if Angry could find a big turnaround, that might make a big difference, but they don't necessarily have the same engage that they had before. They don't have the same fighting potential they have. And the Gold Fury, or well, at this point, any Fury is going to be able to respond right here. And you lose all of the pressure that you would have had because of the ults that are down.
Joshy getting aggressive as Deathwalker tries to find Angry and keep him zoned away from the Fury. Fury just spawned. Straight away, Joshy and the rest of Forge will begin to start this one up. But Terrorem on the front line will be the first on the scene. Spudio right behind him, trying to pressure them off the Gold Fury. Angry coming on the Kukulkan. That's the biggest threat here with that ultimate. Just keep an eye on that as this one continues. If Angry can get him at the right time, it could cause some problems for Freshly Forged.
He's hanging out in the area. He's in the right spot. Not going to throw his ult yet. They're looking for the kills.
Freshly Forged do get the Gold Fury, but in the sky is WorstTurttle, looking to chase down to the backside and finds hold of PrettyPriMe. Big shield from Deathwalker though to keep Prime topped up. Meanwhile, at the same time, Joshy being chased down and forced away by Terrorem. Snake Pit just leaves Dazer and the Gold Fury so far there. Don't find anything else off the back of that engagement. And in the end, Freshly Forged just continue to amount more of a lead.
Yeah, it's just... it feels bad, honestly, for Snake Pit here. I mean, there was so much dominance in Game 1. And right now, Freshly Forged are doing the exact same thing. They've cultivated the lead. They're looking at exactly what they need to. Where are the objectives? They're not kill hungry. Those just happen to be icing on the cake when Snake Pit make a mistake. Snake Pit are almost completely ignoring the Furies, it feels like, and going for these kills, diving a little deeper. I mean, Angry had his ult and was in the area. He could have easily stolen that away, but I think they wanted to win the fight. Maybe because of the potential of afterward, Pyromancer, Fire Giant open.
That's true.
But they just didn't do it. I mean, you still have this Kukulkan at 0-2-0, and so far it doesn't look like Dazer is going to be providing as much as you want out of this Odin.
Well, not when he's only level 12. He's going to get whittled down a little bit quicker than bargain for, especially when the front row, the damage dealer is pretty priming. Joshy, level 20 and 18 respectively. There's a bit of a jungle experience difference there, though, where Faeles is starting to slip up a little bit, trying to catch back up with WorstTurttle. As Dazer is in a world of hurt. Into the sky goes WorstTurttle, though, looking for a duck target. Finds two. Callous and PrettyPriMe, and Prime ended up dead already. Immediately WorstTurttle on fight, but on the back of the fight, Faeles is taking on two. Angry and Dazer out of the mix so far. Prime doing good work to Terrorem to lower the health bar, and a great axe from Joshy, but he can't find a basic attack. He leaps in. Terrorem trying to buy as much time as possible, not enough, and Dazer could end up falling if he's not careful. All the while, Spudio on the left-hand side wasn't really in that fight at all. Takes down a tier 2, but he can't get hold of the Phoenix. It will force back Freshly Forged, and that means Josh and Callus are a little bit far forward in the road, but they knew Dazer was coming in, and Joshy gets the kill and ends Dazer's life. WorstTurttle has to watch on, and the fight subsides.
I feel like with Dazer there, again, the scales start to shift a little more in favor of Freshly Forged. With Spudio, I like the call, and whether it's from him, I don't care who on Snakepit that makes it, that was a good decision. You fight a 4v5, yeah, it ends up being 2 for 1, but you get a tier 2 in left, you get a lot of pressure onto that Phoenix as well, and they took a huge chunk out of that gold lead because of it. Those kind of plays are what keep you in the game right now. And even though it sucks to lose the fight, you win just because of the objective control now shifts. 12-5, who cares about the kill count? Now you're in a position where Fire Giant, it's not safe for Freshly Forged. Pyromancer's not safe for it.
WorstTurttle just touched this guy early on, though. Fire Giant is really under a threat, really, and now it's WorstTurtle who just threw the hammer into the wall, wrong direction, but say goodnight, sweet prince. You will be missed, and not only that, angry throughout the ultimate too. Freshly Forged, you're in a great position for this FG now. There's only a couple of members to really deal with, especially with Kuku building defense over damage. Those tornadoes are not going to do as much as you bargained for. But Forged are taking the fight, they're staying on the FG. Being dropped down by Dazer, keeping Deathwalker in place, but Deathwalker's a tanky target. And all the while, Freshly Forged just waiting around, waiting for their opportunity. Terrorem used his ultimate as well. All ultimates down on both sides.
It's gonna stall out Fire Giant, at least for a little bit, but I don't know if it's gonna end up helping Snakepit at all in the long run. Again, they poke out a lot, they keep investing a ton, but always into these tanky targets. Like Deathwalker and Callus are not the ones that you're gonna have an easy time killing. And they're the reason you're having to invest so much into trying to find a kill, but I don't know if it's worth it. I mean, Deathwalker's 3-0-5. Yes, he should be a priority target, but so should Prime, so should Faeles, so mainly should be Joshy, who's 6-1-2 right now. Like, you need to get rid of the targets that are doing a ton to you. Then you can focus on the tanks.
Well, Fire Giant dance will begin soon, or should I say the Pyromancer one first of all. Snakepit back in action, looking for
trying to figure out where, well, not necessarily where to go, but what kind of pressure they want to put down. Pretty easy Pyromancer overall for Forged. But the question again is how much they can hold onto this area. This is, again, a typical Fire Giant dance, but not in the, hey, we'll sentry, kill your sentry, then you can sentry to kill our sentry, and maybe we'll poke each other out. Yeah. It just feels like Freshly Forged are waiting for Snakepit to engage once again, target the wrong person, and then they'll just kill him outright one more time.
And I think that's a concern for me is Freshly Forged confirmation of the FG or even burst damage around it. I mean, PrettyPriMe doesn't have a whole lot he can do as Persephone here. He'd rather have these plans set up defensively for the fight that can come through. Keep an eye on Snakepit though, wrapping around this left-hand side, WorstTurttle to the sky early. FG is below half health, focuses towards Joshy, all on PrettyPriMe as a target, but instead Snakepit, they go for the FG, and they burst it down! They strip the FG away from Freshly Forged, and then they're going to turn tail and walk away. Mistake made, and now Freshly Forged have to try and turn this back around.
They're going to be going in right now. The Tornado's going to take just enough to get rid of Faeles. Terror might die, but honestly, they set up in a good position.
Absolute disaster there for Freshly Forged, but a great call from Snakepit. And now Callus getting too far forward, leaping in. He's going to just have to limp away back to his team. Deathwalker gives him an early shield, and still getting slowly whittled down. Tornado would be enough. Spudio credited with the kill, and now it's Snakepit for the advantage for the first time this game. I mean, 2 towers gone, they've got the lead.
Yeah, that was a huge call. I mean, to target the Fire Giant there, of all things, it makes sense. I mean, again, Kukulkan can absolutely shred it, but most people there, you're looking for the fight. You want to win. You don't want to risk it at all. There's still 5 members of Freshly Forged around, but just far enough away. And already, that's going to be 2 tier 2s. Like you said, they're going to take the lead. This Phoenix is going to be under siege. Deathwalker actually might have a bad position here.
I might, but he is again with the shields and the knockups to cause problems. The Cataclysm too. Deathwalker should fall down. Will do so. WorstTurttle though, bit off way more than he could chew there. Joshy getting himself a double kill, and that will prevent SnakePit getting that right-hand side Phoenix. So for now, we're going to be in a bit of a waiting game for respawns, I'd say here. I mean, the biggest issue I saw there, I think for me, actually not an issue. WorstTurttle played that fight so well around the FG. He goes up halfway through, he forces Freshly Forged to reset, and then just realizes, hey, we can commit to the FG and strip it away. They're too far back, and they don't really have any sort of security to contest us here.
And that's, again, the biggest thing when it comes down to it. We see a lot of Merlin, a lot of Persephone. PrettyPriMe here has been very potent. But they don't have objective secure the way that Kukulkan does. And part of the reason we see Kukulkan get banned out so often, even a moment like this, if Angry was in the neighborhood not dead, it's dangerous to pull a Fury because of how easily he could just steal it away from you. Right now, it seems like Freshly Forged might be safe.
Terrorem going to try and go for the steal though. Freshly Forged will secure the Primal Fury. Can I still get an aggressive on this right-hand side? Nice little ultimate grab from the grasp of Deathwalker. PrettyPriMe sets up Joshy for his 9th kill of the game now. Yeah. With how this one's going on, and Joshy is becoming a real issue for SnakePit to handle in this game. 19k, nearly 20k in player damage so far. He's been the real backbone of finding the kills. Still credit to Prime though, a lot of assists there.
Yeah, if WorstTurttle can get towards Joshy, I think, even though like Persephone has been a very solid target just because of the ult potency that we've seen out of PrettyPriMe, like you said, with his assist count at 11. I think Joshy might be the target. Joshy saves the Phoenix. Joshy saves that Primal Fury. Joshy is getting all of the kills, whether they're handed to him on a silver platter or not. So I feel like there's some room to operate here as SnakePit to look for the carry, try to kill him off as best you can. If I'm looking at Terrorem, I'm looking at WorstTurttle. You're the ones that I want going back there to kill him off. Then you can turn your sights. Again, it's the same conversation that they had earlier with Deathwalker and Faeles.
Yeah.
Don't care about the tanks. Admittedly, Faeles has been solid, but you can ignore him for a little bit too. You need to kill this Ullr.
Well, we'll see what they can do to try and shut down this Ullr, but all now, SnakePit have kind of evened up the game for the time being. 30 seconds left on this FG buff, 2 members with it, Spudio and Terrorem. And the dance begins again. Deathwalker getting walled off for the time being. Callus getting tailed into the wall. On the back of the fight, though, look at this, Terrorem and WorstTurttle chasing into the carries, but the carries are going to be perfectly fine. Deathwalker, on the other hand, a different story. He got isolated, especially Forge had to backtrack. The grasp of death came through, but it's not enough to shut down SnakePit just yet. And with Callus and Deathwalker dead, it's only the backline left standing here. SnakePit can look for more. Tier 2 tower should be on the cards.
Spudio, for 5 of these seconds, will still have that Fire Giant left, so it should help with this, no problem. It'll go down here before we see the Phoenix Siege, though. So helpful and at least getting them the lead back, but not going to be helpful trying to find the Phoenix. This is the dangerous game, especially in Europe. We've seen a lot of really solid Phoenix defenses. You need a big kill, and honestly, even a 3v5 isn't enough to guarantee that you can win the fight under siege like.
No, but the respawn time's still about 17 seconds on Deathwalker. That's not too bad, actually. He has got teleport if required, just not upgraded yet. And the FG not going to spawn for another 30 seconds. So SnakePit can only really get this Pyromancer. And the Pyromancer will make an impact, I feel like, though. Like, you know, just getting back to base a little bit quicker. Also, potentially just zooming on through on a defensive state back into this game plan. But at the end of the day, it's just a little something to at least find a victory.
And again, it's the little things that add up. The more Pyromancers, the more Furies you get. As the game goes on, Fire Giant's still the guy that you're the most concerned about. But those things are going to help keep you in the lead. They're going to help you, you know, sell off your boots, buy that speed potion, and then set yourself up for a 6th full item build. Things like that will absolutely keep us, especially considering we've seen 2,000 gold swings for either side for the last like 3 or 4 team fights that have gone either way. And the graph shows it, I think, even better than the way I worded it. It's just the mountains that they're building.
It really is. Fire Giant started up again. This is an enhanced Fire Giant, remember. And on top of that, Snake Pit have a better secure option to them. Focusing on Angry could be an important tail. Deathwalker just dancing around, looking for an opportunity. Forced to use his beads there, though, was Angry. As now the ultimate popped down from Odin. WorstTurttle in the sky, looking for an option. Your ultimate through from Angry, but just hitting onto the tanks. Here on the back of the fight, Joshy doing a good job of staying alive. He does end up going down to the double tap coming up from WorstTurttle, though. And Joshy could fall down soon after WorstTurttle as Faeles gets that kill. Terrorem chasing onto PrettyPriMe on the backside. Slowly but surely, PrettyPrime's health bar is deleted, and he's taken out of the game too, as Faeles was trying to 2v1 on the back of that. Angry still alive. It's a 3 for 2 so far, and no team can really find an advantage here. Just the tanks available for Freshly Forged.
Angry staying alive might be the biggest shift in the dynamic, just because, I mean, you get solo and support alive on both sides, but that mid laner is going to be able to help push up some of these waves. Maybe they shift their focus away from the Fire Giant while they wait for people to respawn. There's going to be an Oni Fury in about 40 seconds, so that's absolutely on the table of things that Snake Pit can much more easily not only kill, but confirm than what we'll see out of Freshly Forged. And it was a good call, I think the biggest one. It separated the team for Snake Pit, but Terrorem, WorstTurttle, they focused Joshy that time. Took him a little while to fully kill him off, but those are the little moments and the little things I think will keep them in control of this fight, keep their gold lead going, maybe find them another win.
Well, this is the first set today in the SCC. We're bringing you 2 more SCC sets after this as well. And at the moment, we could be heading to a game 3 of Freshly Forged could at least find victory. We've got Pappies versus F6 a little bit later on, and Freshly Forged again will take on Belt Slap to see their first little time in the Smite Challenger circuit. Deathwalker, though, caught inside the ring, will be prevented from really doing much of anything as Spudio brings him down through his own little shield there too. Next on the list could be Callus. He's forced out away from the action. His ultimate's still on cooldown, remember, and into the sky goes WorstTurttle, a zoning ultimate I've ever seen one before in my life. Ducks back in, and this is an enhanced Fire Giant. What went wrong there, Gore? Was that just like Deathwalker being left out high and dry a little bit too long?
I think we could actually mark that. The 33-minute mark is one of the most important ones of this game because it's the 3rd or 4th time Snake Pit have committed everything to a tank, but it was the first time that they actually got the full kill on the tank when they did it. And that is monumental. Deathwalker was a little caught out, but every single time he's been in a position like that, he's made it out alive. They haven't had the damage. The problem is now Spudio has a Titan's Bane. He's able to eat through your protections a little bit harder. Same thing there, Big Obsidian Shard on Angry. I think he didn't quite get the right number in his mind for the amount of damage he was going to receive. And so once Dazer dropped the walls to make sure he was kept in place, he was locked away. Then it's a 4v5, and you've already lost probably one of your biggest fighters in the fight. They had to give up that Fire Giant because of that pick.
What a turnaround in this game. Freshly Forged were up a mile at one point in this one, looking very good for the win. But one dance around the FG goes wrong, and Snake Pit take that first Fire Giant, and since then, it's Snake Pit climbing back into this game. It shows you kills don't mean as much as, you know, getting those global objectives and getting experience and gold to get a lead here. And now this Oni minion wave Gore pouring down every lane, this is going to be even harder to defend these Phoenixes.
And outside of solo right now, which is meeting at Freshly Forged tier 1, or where it would be if it was still standing, you've got a lot of pressure already built up because of how far Snake Pit have pushed up. So they have a wave coming into the Phoenixes, then an Oni wave coming in to back them up. Plus the Fire Giant on their belt, like the Phoenixes, at least one of them has to go down.
Terrorem got chipped away at way too quickly. They're forced to use his ultimate and reset. And now you can see everything's fine in the side of Freshly Forged in terms of their base setup there. So a good little play from Freshly Forged defensively. Although I will say Prime did have to use his ultimate there. But look at this, well, farmyard that Prime has set up over here. That's not a place I want to try and siege into, if I'm honest.
No, that is a danger zone right now. And again, that's, I think, one of the biggest things Persephone is going to bring to the table that you're not really going to get to see out of Kukulkan. Tornadoes are going to go wherever he wants. They can cover a certain amount. That left Phoenix for Freshly Forged is the most important one to deter, just because, again, proximity to Fire Giant is the furthest away. PrettyPriMe can keep that garden there pretty much the entire time. The minute he sees anyone rotating over, he can rebuild it, they'll grow up, and he'll have a little plant army to help defend. Same thing can happen in mid, same thing can happen in right. Persephone just helps this Phoenix defense for Freshly Forged much stronger than I think they are ready for on the side of Snake Pit.
You see WorstTurttle using his wall there,
That's
trying to
cute.
delay the minions in mid lane just a little bit longer for his teammate to push up this left-hand side. Although straight after clearing the minion wave out. Okay, then the wall after. Just buying time. We've got about a minute left on the FG buff for a Snake Pit to try and commit with this. WorstTurttle going to head to the mid lane, very similar to game one now in terms of setup. Keep an eye on Deathwalker looking for blinks, and you can see Angry was looking for that option too, so he's going to keep throwing those tornadoes down where he can to prevent the blink initiation coming through. Onto the Phoenix we go.
They're on PrettyPriMe right now. The garden is set up and they're standing in it. It's just how aggressive is Freshly Forged want to get. Where do they want to fight? They're going to be under tower now. Dazer is going to be an easy target. It's going to be Spudio.
Deathwalker lost all his health. Angry's got a big time fucking top here, I think, for a shell to help him out there. In the back of the fight, though, WorstTurttle dunks in, deletes Joshy, and now with Spudio getting hold of Deathwalker. This is causing problems. Snake Pit ripped through the ultimate from Angry, won't find a kill, but it will him to get hold of that Phoenix. And now with Kalish just jumping in, oh no, the new transformation, he can end up falling as well. There's only PrettyPriMe and Faeles left standing.
I mean, they can push in. I mean, there's two members and they're really squishy. You've got Fire Giant, you've got Angry, you've got Spudio. You can take this mid Phoenix. You've got minions coming in as well. This is looking really solid for Snake Pit to try and close this out.
Better safe than sorry is what I'd say from Snake Pit's point of view. Minion wave from the left-hand side, up to Prime and Faeles to defend this one, but against the tornado from Kukulkan, Freshly Forged has let this game slip away from them, and Snake Pit are going to defeat them in week 1, 2-0.
I mean, that's just, again, the right reads at the right time from Snake Pit. There's no other way to describe it. Freshly Forged is controlling the game from the beginning to that first Fire Giant, and then Snake Pit recognize that that's the time to go in. They take that one, they use it well. Spudio makes good shot calls on split pushing, and then the same thing every fight after that. It was just, what's the split-second decision? And Snake Pit in game 1 and again in game 2 made the right calls every time.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is really showing where Freshly Forged are struggling with chemistry again. Great players after all. The early game was fantastic, but it wasn't good enough. Deathwalker and the boys with PrettyPriMe won't be able to do it. Joshy was really trying to carry this team and he's back to an extent at certain points. Still couldn't find the victory there, but full credit to Snake Pit and how they played that game.
I mean, imagine you're going 9-3-4 here if you're Joshy. And it just didn't come through. I mean, what I would have guessed was going to be top damage. But actually, PrettyPriMe beat him by a very healthy chunk up there. But he still puts up 24,000 if you're Joshy here. PrettyPriMe puts up 31,000. And they just didn't convert it into late game kills. All of that happened first, I guess maybe 20 minutes, 25 minutes even, because of the way the game was going. And that's right around that first Fire Giant. They just decided to back up a little too far to dodge out WorstTurttle. And it's weird that, 10 steps realistically is what separated you from the winning this game.
Well, if you're just tuning in and you didn't know, we're working from home at the moment. Reason being is because
this
of
is
all
in the studio?
No, definitely not. I'm pretty sure Pecky's wouldn't let me on air with this, but he can't stop me. So that's what it's going to be. But I put a bow tie on for the chat viewers that didn't like it. We're going to be doing this from home for the next couple of weeks, potentially, and we're preparing to bring you as much action as possible. We've still got 2 amazing sets of Europe Smite Challenger Circuit to bring you, and after the break, we'll be seeing the Pappies up against F6, the team that nobody expected to make it into this European group. After the break, we'll be back with more.